You know, our community economic development question today isn't one of jobs, it's one of why here? Why do I want to live and work in this place? And the answer is, you know, because this is where I want to be. This is where I want to raise my kids. People can bring their job with them, or they can create a job. Technology has changed lots of this. When you look at the growth of unrestricted endowments in the NCF network, I'm just blown away. And for many, many, many of you on the line tonight, you've done that by using a challenge grant to really kick that process off. And one of the things I love about challenge grants is when you go and ask a donor to contribute to a challenge grant, it's such a fascinating conversation because usually you go and ask a donor for a gift, it's for a specific thing, right? That's not true for an unrestricted endowment. What you're asking them to do is invest in the future of your home place. So if you go, and I'm just making names up, but if you go and talk to Joe and Marge about making a gift to your unrestricted endowment and they say, well, what are you going to spend the money on? Your answer can be, I don't know. What do you want to spend the money on? Now we're talking about people beginning to articulate their hopes and dreams for their home place. That's powerful. That's really helping us change our narrative. That's helping us change our self-fulfilling prophecy of our place. And if you look at how that's worked, look at the growth in numbers here. 2012, there was $12 million in unrestricted endowments. In 2020, there's 51 million. And that's through thousands of gifts and dozens of challenge grants. And now you look at the community-based affiliated funds with more than 10,000 in payout and more than 50,000 in payout a year. That's a big difference. These are, and we're just getting started. So this is really exciting. We consider this to be a pretty major milestone in the NCF network this year. We've celebrated in our annual report, and I want to thank all of you for helping lead the way on this. Next slide, please. Denise keeps wanting to cheer. So Denise, at some point we will cheer. Okay. I just wanted to share with all of you, and we have 47 different funds that have at least have used a challenge grant to help build their unrestricted endowment. This is just, I think we have 16 of them up here. But look at McCook, and we'll talk about McCook a little more. They now have $3.4 million in their unrestricted endowment. That creates $154,000 a year. Butler County, which is David City and Rising City and places in that part of the world, 8,400 population, $1.6 million unrestricted endowment, $71,000 a year of payout. You can go to the next one, please. Pender, you know, you can look through here and say, oh, some of these places aren't very big. It's like, no, we have not found that size is directly correlated to money at all. We have found that people that are motivated and inspired and in relationship with one another, these are the folks that are reinvesting in their home place. So actually go back to the first page, would you, Emily? No one, there you go. Look at Shickley. Shickley's got almost $2 million in their unrestricted endowment, and they have almost $2 million in expectancies. And lots of those are coming in $100,000 at a time, sometimes $250,000 at a time, and sometimes $250 at a time. You know, but one of the things I've always been so proud of in Shickley is they have conversations with every family in their school district about the future of their community, the future of their school, and the future of their home place. Look at the success they're reaping. You go a couple forward, Emily. There you go. Diller, Howells, Bertrand. You know, look at small places, big aspirations, and they're doing incredible work. All of these slides are on the materials. So if you want a copy of these slides, you can certainly get them off the materials page. Carrie will put that note in the chat where you guys can do that. Thank you, Carrie. Next slide, please. I want to be cognizant of my time here. I think I'm doing pretty good. So I've summed up some of this, but I want to put it in front of all of you. And this is a slide that was created before 2020. So it's part of why I want to talk about it a little bit, so you can see why create community-focused unrestricted endowments. for development, not relief. Creates that discretionary capital that I'm talking about. And I'm absolutely convinced that leaders become leaders by leading. And it's really hard to be a leader if it's just ideas that you're fomenting, as opposed to taking ideas and having resources and being able to make investments. And then being able to learn from making those investments to continue to get better. That's the beauty of discretion here. Hopefully it's to create a margin of excellence in your home place. The way we've articulated it in our strategic framework is to create change that otherwise may not occur. We talked a lot about dreams in the NCF network. Unrestricted endowments help us create space to envision new possibilities. And it really helps to have that conversation about why here. I graduated from high school in 1986, and the message that I got was, your future is going to be someplace else. We'll see you for the holidays. We can't do that. Societally, we can't renew ourselves if we're educating our kids out of our places. Unrestricted endowments create an enormous opportunity to have conversations about dreaming about the future and co-producing that future together. Now, the 2020 context, and I didn't see a pandemic coming. I had no idea that was coming. But these unrestricted endowments proved to be really pivotal this year in helping communities to cope with the onset of COVID-19 and the pandemic. We're not going to talk in this session about it, but we did a lot of work earlier this year helping affiliated funds and small schools in greater Nebraska bridge the learning gap. Most of the local match that came with the statewide match was payout from unrestricted endowments. That money was immediately available for those community leaders to immediately grant for the needs in that particular place. So like I said, that wasn't one of the things that we saw as a particular need for unrestricted endowments, but between the flooding last year and the pandemic this year, these are really, not just margin of excellence monies. These are also monies just to make sure we get through until next year. 2 more slides. So if you go to the next one, please, Emily. I think you went one past. Is there one before it? Oh, okay. All right. So McCook has been unbelievably successful in using challenge grants to build their unrestricted endowment. So they started doing this work in the early 2000s, and you can see that the unrestricted endowment in McCook is now $3.4 million. That's at the bottom of the page. But in 2007, a fund advisory committee leader named Don Harpst issued a $25,000 challenge grant to the McCook Fund to be matched 3-to-1 to help build their unrestricted endowment. There was some money in there at that time, but that $100,000 really kind of kicked them into gear. And then we had the opportunity to, again, do a pretty grand experiment with the Sherwood Foundation. So there were 4 affiliated funds in the NCF network. McCook was one of the 4. To receive a $250,000 challenge grant, they needed a match with $500,000. McCook did that in record time. I think you did it faster than Nebraska City did, which of course fomented this great little competition between those 2 places. The other places in round 1 were Shickley and Norfolk. So 4 very different places, different sizes, different economies, different geography, different leadership. But we've seen challenge grants again and again and again be this incredible catalyst for building not only the assets in your unrestricted endowment, but really building out the leadership capacity in your fund advisory committee to lead those efforts for change. Toward the end of the Sherwood Challenge Grant period, there was a family in McCook that decided they wanted to make a grant. The Community Foundation Fund decided we want to treat that as an additional challenge grant. So they took that $90,000 gift and raised an additional $180,000 to the $750,000 they'd already raised from the Sherwood Challenge. And then most recently, and Matt's going to talk about this for a little bit, in 2018, the daughter of a local family provided a challenge grant. Initially, $100,000 was increased to $200,000 and was ultimately matched with $400,000 of local resources. I love the rings of a tree analogy here because it is kind of how we're growing, right? It's just like concentric circles. And in each of those concentric circles, more relationships, more success, more grant making that's happened, therefore more people that are informed. And it's turned out to be more and more people that are willing to ask and engage in those invitational conversations with their friends and neighbors. We want to invite you to be a part of this with us. So why don't we go to the next slide, please? Let's see if maybe we're missing a slide. Is the Shickley slide in here, Denise?
I do not see the Shickley slide up there. Maybe we will get that up there for you.
Yeah. When
After
Richard does his,
Yep.
we'll figure that out. So just a couple concluding comments from me and go to back. One of the most important things that affiliated funds that have used challenge grants learn is that it's ultimately not about the money. The money is an incredibly important tool to get work done, but it's just an input. Money is one of the resources we need in our communities in order to build our communities. Money in and of itself is not an outcome. It's an input that we need in order to invest in people and invest in our communities to make them better and to attract people to want to be in community with us, especially young people. We are seeing this in dozens and dozens and dozens of home places that in 53 Nebraska counties, the number of people in their 30s and 40s is going up. And I'm really optimistic that when we see the new census, we'll see a number of trends like that as well. We're seeing lots of that. Part of that is because there's different conversations happening in our home places about the future and where you can live and work and raise your kids. I'm convinced that building unrestricted endowments have created a culture in some places to help them have more positive conversations about the future of their place. And that's the whole goal here, right? The money's great. You look back, you look at a Keith County and they got that enormous estate gift. Well, Keith County's got this incredible amount of payout now, right? Fascinating to think about the difference that fund can make in all of the people in Keith County and how to make that a great place to live, work, and raise your kids. That possibility of estate gifts, that possibility exists in every Nebraska home place. Every one of them. We're seeing 7-figure gifts this year in lots of places, large and small. It's all possible. And challenge grants are one of those great ways of getting engaged, having lots of conversations with friends and neighbors that ultimately turn into more good things. So with that, I want to congratulate all of you that have been a part of building your affiliated funds and using challenge grants as a catalyst. It's an incredible success story that I'm really delighted and proud to be a part of. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Wow, thank you for those inspirational words and really helping us understand why we build unrestricted endowments and why homegrown challenge grants are a huge part of that. So with that, we're going to break out into our first breakout session. And I want you to remember that this is Dreams Welcome Week, and this is definitely a time to dream big. So our first question is, what impact could your fund advisory committee make on your community with an additional $10,000 in endowment payout each year? So I'm going to have you go to your breakouts, introduce yourselves once you get into the breakouts, and then have a great discussion around this question. Thank you. Emily, take us away. And I'm thankful that you had wonderful conversations. It's exactly what we wanted. So how do we get an additional $10,000 for our endowment payout each year for our funds? Homegrown challenge grants are one of the best ways in order to do that. And tonight we're going to have the wonderful opportunity to hear from some mentors that have been very involved in homegrown challenge grants. We're initially going to hear from Richard Walter from Shickley. We've all heard many stories about Shickley and all the awesome things this small little town in southeastern Nebraska does. So Richard's going to share a few secrets with us, primarily talking to us about how to find a homegrown challenge grant donor. And then we're also going to hear from some other individuals, a donor, and then 2 individuals that have been very involved in their homegrown challenge grants. So with that, I am going to introduce Mr. Richard Walter from Shickley, and he's going to tell us how they came about developing their list of potential homegrown challenge grant donors, and then how they refined that list to just 1 donor. So Richard, I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you, Jana. Okay, the way we approached this, the very first time we did this was back in 2001. We had 12 members on our fund advisory committee. We met and decided that we wanted to do a challenge grant. We got the idea from the Nebraska Community Foundation from Jeff and Jim, and we found out that Red Cloud had just finished up a challenge grant. So we learned some things from them. And we decided what we would do. Each of the 12 of us made a list of 10 people in the community, or 10 families in the community, that we thought had enough pride in the community, had the wherewithal economically to offer us a challenge grant. We took those names and we consolidated them down to a list of 10. And the Wilkins family owned the bank, were the #1 family. We met with them and we were able to get a challenge grant of $105,000 over a 3-year period that we had to match 1 for 1. The importance of that list, though, was that the fact that we had to raise $35,000 in 6 weeks. We got the challenge grant in the day before Thanksgiving, and the Wilkins family wanted us to raise $35,000 before the end of the year. That list gave us an opportunity to visit with the other 9 families on that list. And that was kind of the low-hanging fruit. We knew that they were, they had the wherewithal. They also had community pride. They lived in the community. They had businesses in the community, and they were successful with it. And with the 12 FAC members, we were able to raise $38,000 by December 31st. So that you need to develop a list, and on that list, get as many names as you can, but don't just use the name that you get the challenge grant from. Use that as your list going forward to start the conversations in the community, because these are people, if they made that list, they have to have a presence in the community where people in the community respect them and know that they are wanting to grow the community. And this was a great opportunity for us. I mentioned in the breakout session, I don't know what we'd do. We couldn't imagine 20 years ago that we'd have this kind of money, but now that we have it, we can't imagine what we'd do if we didn't have it. It's been a huge help. This summer we were able to help the school with their virtual learning, getting iPads for the kids, getting better telecommunications into the school, and it was just a great help. Also,
go ahead.
Okay, Jeff, did we get that slide?
We are going to get the slide, but I have a couple questions for you, Richard, before we get to
go
that.
ahead. Go ahead.
So how did you determine who were the right people to go visit with your #1 potential donor? How did you select those individuals?
Well, I think it fell on Joe Kemmler and myself. I was the chairman of the FAC committee at the time, and Joe was our treasurer. And I think we drew the short straw. But we met with the Wilkins family that, like I said, the day before Thanksgiving, the brothers, and we were successful in getting the challenge grant. There's kind of a little neat story in that Joe and I were visiting with Hugh and Bill Wilkins, the brothers, and I'm not sure we're getting our message across quite like we wanted to. And their sister came in to get the car keys from Hugh so she could go shopping. And she says, "What are you guys here for?" And we told her, and she says, "Well, that's a great idea. We ought to do that." And from that point on, it was a done deal. Bill and Hugh signed on to it, and that got us off to a great start. We raised 200 with their money, and the money we raised, we had $276,000 in our endowment.
Richard, thank you for sharing all of that story. I think that is so powerful that maybe you needed all the people around the table to make the decision that day. Thank God the sister walked in.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
I've told her that 100 times.
So what we have in front of us is a slide that we put together, and our talented marketing department put together, just kind of showcasing the growth of the Shickley Community Foundation Fund's unrestricted endowment. And obviously 2002 was your start, and now at 2020, you're at.
I don't have a slide on my screen. I've got a Zoom picture.
Well, I'm going to have Jeff make a few comments at this time. Jeff.
There it is. There it popped up.
Okay, I was gonna say, can everybody else see the slide? Okay, good. So I think part of this is in Shickley, they're going fast, but this is moving incrementally, right?
Yeah,
It didn't go from 1 million to, it didn't go from 25,000 to 1 million. It took a while to get to 1 million. And that's true of many things. Is boy, a million sort of a tipping point, 5 million sort of a tipping point. But look at this. So 28,000 at the end of FY 2002. Richard talked about the 276,000 they raised. So that was the balance by the end of 2005. Little bit of slow growth till 2010. And then the Sherwood Challenge grant is between 2010 and 2015. So that was a $250,000 challenge grant matched with $500,000. And like I mentioned, members of the Shickley Fund Advisory Committee went and met with every individual, every adult that lives in the school district, which I just thought was phenomenal. And they were just asking everybody to participate. Well, look at the good stuff that's led to, because not only has the amount in the endowment grown, look at the number of people that have now shared that they have Shickley written into their estate plan. That's what an expectancy is. So expectancies continue to be greater than the amount in the endowment. In the case of Shickley, it's just sort of success breeds success. Nothing succeeds like success itself. They've got the snowball and it's rolling down the hill. Richard, since these numbers were put together, you just received an estate gift, right?
Right. We just received a $100,000 estate gift here in the last month. And, I've said over the years, Jeff, you've heard me say it, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint, but the longer you work at it, if you keep working at it, just analogy of a snowball is very true. It gets a little bit easier as you go along, because people see what you're doing around the community, the grants that we've made, the impact that we've made in the community. And it's a lot, the conversations are getting more and more focused now on plan giving is what we're targeting, and now trying to get those expectancies, because we think that's where the real advances will be made in our unrestricted endowment.
Thank you, Richard, and congratulations to you and everybody in Shickley for this incredible community building story.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you, Jeff. And with that, we're going to jump right into hearing from a challenge grant donor. So Denise.
This is Denise, and I know you will enjoy our next speaker, Matt Sainert. Matt is a McCook FAC member and owner of the James Beard Foundation Award-winning Sainert's Bakery. Matt has a very unique perspective of developing a close relationship with a potential challenge donor. It might just be a sister. Through numerous conversations, the Sainert Challenge was created, and Matt's going to share some helpful insights today. Matt, take it away.
Thanks, Denise. Well, a few years ago, my sister wanted to honor my parents and give a gift to McCook. And she's very interested in the arts and the influence that my parents gave her to love the arts and the experience that she had in our community of McCook while she was growing up. So she started talking to Jeff and the folks at the Community Foundation and the McCook Community Foundation. And there's lots of conversations. You're going to hear that word a lot, but everything from whether it should be a restricted or an unrestricted endowment. And also my sister is very private. So she really wanted it to be just a quiet donation. But through conversation, we talked her into making it a challenge campaign for an endowment. And the name was another thing. She wanted it to be a private name or to keep it private. But again, the Community Foundation helped guide that and decided that making it, using our family name would make it more personal. So the combination of passion for the cultural arts and connections with, especially my mother through the years with her teaching and things, engaged a lot of people. So we had about 30 people who were involved making ask for the campaign. And that was awesome. It was really good. The guidance and professionalism of the Community Foundation was incredible. And they basically designed and created and led us through the process. And one cool thing was that they worked with local artists to make the video and the print material. So that engaged more local people. It was really cool. I heard at a earlier session today, somebody said instead of having a meeting, you should have a party. And McCook's pretty good at that. So we try to celebrate different parts of our goals as we moved along the campaign. And when we were finally met all of our pledge goals, we had a big party here at our bakery with food, drink, and live music. We invited the Community Foundation people, the 30 plus volunteers, key donors, and of course my sister and her family. And we were able to thank my sister, but what was really cool was that my sister was able to thank my parents and McCook for fostering the arts and many volunteers and the Community Foundation. And then she also made a challenge to make sure we used the money well. Words of advice for a challenge campaign, I'd say communication's key, obviously. Keep people informed of the process and toot your own horn, because it's pretty amazing. People need to know that you're doing stuff. Like in Shickley, when they see you doing stuff, they'll get involved. Start conversations early. Jeff Yost says build relationships before you need them. And that's what you do in a smaller community, but you got to get out and do it. And it's hard to understand, like for me, when you don't have money, it's hard to understand this, but people with money are often willing to pony up for causes that they believe in. And so keep in touch. We need to keep in touch with locals, but also alumni like my sister, and help them find their connection. I think as we get older, we think back to our youth and things that influenced us and formed our lives. And for my sister, it was the arts. And for other people, it might be a coach or a mentor, or it might be an experience like 4-H or sports or theater or swimming pool. There's lots of things. As we get older, we want to make sure that the things that influenced us and continue to influence the next generations. So help them find what they want to do and engage people locally that are interested in the same things. Like with the arts, we engaged a lot of volunteers that helped because they knew it would help the arts. So I guess I would challenge us all to offer this opportunity for a donor to give, for a donor to do good, for a donor to help pass on to the next generation, because it is an opportunity. And make sure we have good donor intent, take care of the money properly, thank the donor, and keep them informed. I think we need to thank the donors, with notes and stuff like that. But I think the best thank you is to take that money and use it, build it and use it wisely, and so they see the fruits of their gifts. So build trust, do good things with the gifts, and have a lot of fun along the way. I'm complete.
Oh,
That
wow.
is wonderful, Matt. Thank you so much. And I think we should do hands. Great applause.
Yeah.
Thank you. So there is the lovely Sainert Challenge brochure is available on our landing page. And if you are interested in seeing the video that was created for the challenge, please put your email in the chat box and I will get it sent to you. And I think that in that video, it really shows that donor's why, that it definitely came through. And thank you, Matt, for giving us that version. We are going to hear more of it from Dale Dooland, who's speaking later. So Jana, take us on to our next activity. I'm complete.
All right. Well, thank you, Matt, and thank you, Richard. Certainly you've given us food for thought on how to find a challenge grant donor and who we might think about asking. So the question that is posed to all of you, and you get to do this just on your own, by yourself, with a dreamy music coming up with Emily, who are potential challenge grant donors for your community? Dream big here, folks. This is your time to think about who you could ask in your community to potentially provide a challenge grant to grow your unrestricted endowment. So Emily, tee up the music, please. All right, Miss Emily, I think we've probably given everyone enough time to maybe jot down a few ideas. Don't lose that list. All right. Now we're going to move into hearing from some actual individuals that worked on challenge grants. So, Miss Denise, I'll let you do the introductions.
Thanks, Jana. I am pleased to introduce from Bertrand, population 711, a dynamic duo, FAC Chair Joel High and Treasurer Bev Hansen. The FAC started planning their Homegrown Challenge in 2018 and actually confirmed the Holtis Challenge by asking Bertrand alums, Kelly and Virginia Holtis, to match with $150,000 if they would raise $300,000. The Holtis Challenge campaign started in January 2019. And Bev, let's hear from your why of doing a challenge now and what are some keys to your success. I'm complete.
Thank you, Denise. Greetings from Bertrand. As Denise said, I'm Beverly Hansen, and I will be sharing planning tips for a Homegrown Challenge campaign. First, let me say, NCF is available to support and assist you every step of the way, from your NCF coordinator to staff members at the home office in Lincoln. Planning is the key to a successful campaign. Our FAC completed the multiple stages of a campaign training guide, which prepared us for the following steps. Number 1, securing the challenge grant, selecting a match challenge donor. Jim Gustafson gave us a tip, which helped us with our selection. He even went with us, our team of 2 members, to meet the donor couple. We have 9 FAC members, and each one composed a brief statement about our hometown, what Bertrand means to us, and what we see for our future, and how that ties into our fund's mission, vision, and value statements. We shared these statements with the prospective donors. Our FAC members also made a campaign pledge prior to meeting with the donors, and were pleased to share a total of $30,000 in pledges to begin the campaign. Completing the grant agreement developed by NCF and signed by the donor and our fund is the next step. We also wrote a personal thank you to the donors. We also send campaign progress reports to our donors so that they can share in the excitement of attaining our goals. Number 2, the planning phase. This education on the structure of the campaign, selecting and setting up committees, setting a first meeting date, and the framework for scheduling follow-up meetings. Moving on, establishing a prospective donor database and determining the management of that database. Create a campaign budget to enable and encourage events, mailings, signs, and incidental expenses. Number 3, campaign promotional materials. We utilized NCF's creative specialists and the Director of Marketing and Communications to develop our materials. They request 2 to 3 months of lead time. Be prepared to share FAC member quotes, stories, and pictures. Then we selected a local printing company to have these items printed. Also consider having thank you notes printed. Number 4, leadership asker phase. Recruit askers to join the leadership and donor development team. Each FAC member identified people. We had a total of 48 community individuals that we asked to join our team. Each of our 9 FAC members accepted the role as a team leader. Number 5, askers. BACF hosted a dinner meeting for the potential askers. Campaign materials, training on how to make the ask, selection of prospective donor calls, no more than 5 calls per team, and other information was presented. NCF staff members, Denise Gary, Jim Gustafson, and Emmy Schulze, and NCF board members Dale Dooland and Dan Bahinsky were present to assist us and guide us that evening. Our goal was a time commitment of less than 3 months for this first phase of the campaign. 19 individuals committed to join the asker team. Number 6, tools for making the ask. These tools include our fund's endowment fact and question sheet, a list of grants that our fund has given to the community entities. This demonstrates our commitment to providing goodwill as well as good works in our community. We also use the campaign brochure, appointment letter, pledge agreement, ACH authorization, gifts of grain, gifts of livestock, gifts of stock, and IRA distribution forms. NCF provides all of these items, including steps and/or requirements necessary to complete the transaction. BACF took a path of ensuring our donors that their gift would be confidential. The asker provided the donor with an envelope addressed to the treasurer. This assured the donor that only the treasurer and NCF staff would know the pledge amount. Number 7, follow-up meetings. Establish a timeline in advance for sharing each ask team's progress, asking questions and telling stories. Learn to be flexible with reason while staying on track. Number 8, thank you notes. Be prompt in sending your handwritten notes. Both the asker and our BAF, fund chair sent notes to the donors. Celebration events. Plan events as you reach each stage of the campaign. It is important to keep your teams informed and also your challenge donors. Number 10, transition from quiet, silent phase to the public phase of your campaign when you reach between 75 and 80% of your campaign goal. We invited Jeff Yost to participate in the 2019 Bertrand Days Parade as part of our public announcement. Kelly and Virginia Holdus, our campaign match donors, were to have been the 2020 Bertrand Days Parade Grand Marshals. We've moved that forward to 2021. Dreams are welcome in Bertrand, thanks to the first challenge grant that started our fund and our current hometown challenge. Thank you, and now back to Denise.
This is awesome. Thanks, Bev and Bertrand, for your outstanding leadership. I'm excited to introduce you to our next speaker, McCook Fund Advisory Committee Vice Chair and Sainert Challenge Co-Chair, Dale Dooland. And Dale, could you please share some of your insights learned from the numerous homegrown challenges conducted by McCook, and especially some details of the Sainert Challenge? I'm complete.
Thank you, Denise. I guess I'm left to kind of pull on the threads that haven't been pulled on so far. If you've been listening closely to Jeff and Matt and Richard and Bev, I think you'll discover that there's a lot of different ways to do this, but they all follow a common theme. And Jeff shared that graphic of the concentric circles on how the fund grows financially. But I actually look at that graphic of concentric circles a little differently. I look at it as a blueprint to how to grow I don't know exactly how to say it, the people part of your community fund or your community. And a successful campaign is well organized, as Bev just did a great job detailing some of the pieces of that. And so let's go back to that graphic of the concentric circles of the tree. Probably the most important part is the center there. And that is where you develop your why. And that comes from conversations in your community about what your community needs are and those relationships that you're leveraging that you've already formed and visions you've shared about what your future community should look like. It's also a place where you identify what a potential donor may be. We've had it happen both ways. We've had been approached with potential match donors, and then we've went out and sought them as well. But actually, McCook's been lucky enough for the most part that the work we've done, they came forward to us and then we had to work on the other parts of organizing the mechanics of a successful campaign. Once you develop a strong why, and I just can't overemphasize the importance of your why, then you can move to that next circle, and that's where you start the putting the mechanical pieces in place to do your campaign. In that area, you'll identify where your major donors might be beyond the central match donor. You'll also identify people in the community who can help you with this. The people that are financial advisors that know where the major donors might be. You might, in our case, it was mentioned that we employed some people who had some great communications and graphic skills to help us communicate our why. And these first two circles, we probably spent, in that first circle and those discussions with our major donor, I bet we spent a year to a year and a half in the first circle. And that applies to nearly all of the campaigns we've done. That second circle probably was a couple months getting that core group organized. And as you add these circles, you relay or share your why out to those folks. And now you have buy-in by a larger group. And that first core growth grows in our case from, let's say, 2 to 4 to 6 people. Now it's 10. Now it's 12. So let's go out to the next layer then. And that's where we recruit our people to ask. And we share our plan with them. And again, share our why with them and get buy-in and keep developing the passion around the campaign that you're working on. So at that point, this is still a private campaign. Everyone's been instructed that, not to discuss a lot of details of it. We try to keep it fairly close. We all live in small communities, though, and we know some of this gets discussed, but really, if you can keep that as private as possible, it can be successful. But then, so we started the campaign in a quiet phase, and McCook has been successful enough and privileged, lucky enough, I don't know what you use to describe it, but we've had a great deal of success in that phase, and it's helped us reach that 60 to 70% goal pretty quickly in nearly all of our campaigns. And at that point, we go public, share our passion, our ideas with the community. And in the case of the Sainert campaign, we had about 40 people to ask, I suppose. We had a goal of getting 175 separate donors, and we did reach that. Our Sherwood campaign, we had a goal of 250. Came just a little bit short of reaching 250 separate donors, but we did that then with about 12 askers. So as we've gotten more experience with our campaigns, we've grown the number of people in town who are willing to help and understand what we're trying to do here. So we've been very fortunate to be successful. McCook is a very good giving place. And I'll add one more piece to this that comes in. Success breeds success. You heard that earlier. And this last year, in the year of the pandemic, we've grown our endowment another $1 million. And that came in the form of 2 gifts, about $500,000 that was a donor restricted to our library. And then the other $500,000 was added to our unrestricted fund by a family that used to live in McCook and on the newspaper. So that's a great example of, it's been described, that snowball that keeps picking up layers, like the tree that adds layers. And there's no better time to begin than now. And you just never know where it's going to take you. But if you follow the guidelines that NCF lays out for you, and I know these fund development coordinators are out there, are happy to work with the communities that want to take on one of these challenge campaigns to energize their fund. And we just we live and breathe everything that's been discussed tonight. Those are all keys to our success. So, Denise, do you have any other points I should make?
I just love it when you talk about how sometimes it's not always about the money. If you could just do that one to wrap us up.
Mm-hmm. And I probably didn't emphasize that enough. I kind of did, in the sense that my concentric circle graphic is more about people and adding layers of people to what our dreams for our communities are. But these homegrown challenges give you the opportunity to get out there and one-on-one or two-on-two have conversations about what the potential of your community is and what your dreams are, and then ask other people who aren't in this circle yet. I'm confident they soon will be if you do a good job explaining your why and using your passion to do that. But that having these community conversations, I think, is as important as anything. And for those of you who think these are scary things to take on, yeah, initially they seem a little scary. I thought so too years ago when I started in on the first one. But when you have a strongly developed why, and a story about that why, and what the opportunities you may capture by building an unrestricted endowment, then it makes it easier for me, at least, and removes the scary part. And I don't mind at all going out and talking to people about what my dreams for the future of McCook are.
That's great, Dale. Thank you so much. Let's give a virtual round of applause for Bertrand, Shickley, and McCook. Jana, these three communities are extremely inspiring. Let's keep the momentum going with our next speaker. I'm complete.
Absolutely, Denise. And so the next speaker I'm going to introduce is going to talk to us a little bit about unrestricted endowment and just kind of share with us truly how hard that is to do. NCF is unique in the fact that that's what we push on, is building your unrestricted endowment so you have unrestricted money to spend back into your communities. And building unrestricted endowments, believe it or not, is pretty darn hard work. It's not like building a building. It's not a campaign that you can see and touch. And so I'd like to introduce you to a partner of ours. His name is Paul Turnus. He's with the Peter Kiewit Foundation. And he's going to share a few comments about NCF's endowment building campaigns and just some thoughts that he has around that. So Paul, take it away.
Thank you, Denise. I appreciate the invitation to join the NCF network. It's 7:40 here, which means I should be helping putting kids to bed. And I'm pretty sure that means it's 1:40 in Northern Ireland. So let's just do like hands in the air, dance in your chairs, loosen up, wake up. All right. I have no idea how Mr. Hughes from Northern Ireland is awake right now, but well done. All right. I am a North Dakota native and a proud Nebraskan. As a Husker alum, I have red running in my veins. Coming from a rural state and marrying into a family that calls rural Nebraska home, I love rural and I love greater Nebraska. I'm here with you tonight representing Peter Kiewit Foundation, which is a geography-specific private foundation based in Omaha, Nebraska. We fund across Nebraska and a portion of Western Iowa. And our mission is to create opportunities for people to live in and help build strong and vibrant communities, achieve economic success, and enjoy a high quality of life. One thing we don't fund is endowment. So aren't you glad I get to speak to you tonight? One reason I do love my job at Peter Kiewit Foundation is part of my role is to work with communities across Nebraska, including by way of NCF's network, to help them dream big. We can't fund everything, but we're good at dreaming with you. Since I joined PKF in 2012, just in that time, we've received nearly 2,000 applications, of which 1,200 were approved. And the foundation has been around since 1979, and we've made well over 5,000 grants totaling more than $750 million, almost entirely given in the state of Nebraska. This doesn't even touch the number of conversations we've had and simply couldn't issue an application. That would easily triple the count. I have lots of conversations. I look at a lot of projects, listen to a lot of ambitious goals and inspiring dreams. Pause for a moment. What do you think people tell me is the hardest thing to raise money for? Over and over, I hear that it is endowment. Endowment is the hardest fundraising campaign. Many foundations, like PKF included, aren't able to contribute to endowments. Endowments, I have well-paid, seasoned fundraising professionals telling me over and over it's the hardest to raise money for endowments. So this is really inspiring at this point, I'm sure, but let's turn it around. That's the old song. Let's finish the new song. Did you know that line has been proven wrong by your fellow FACs? This work, the Homegrown Challenge grants and the NCF network, this work stands out from darn near anything I've looked at, worked on, or partnered with. Look at your screen. You're all unpaid volunteers, less experienced with campaigns, less experienced in making an ask. Some of you are on the FACs simply because you care or you can't say no. Perfect. What you do have that makes you unique, sets you apart, and positions you for success. You aren't a paid fundraiser asking for dollars to support one organization. Nope, and that's a good thing. You are passionate volunteers who live in and authentically care for your community. Your interests aren't just one organization. Your interest is the future success, future legacy of your community. Research time and time again has shown that success breeds success. How about McCook with the tree rings? Look at your Brady Bunch photos on your screen. You all represent communities. Your success breeds success. Communities focus on what can be rather than what was or what is. Communities find successful ways to honor the past and dream of a future. Success breeds success. How about Shickley and Bertrand? Shift from transactional grant making to transformational investment. That's what unrestricted endowment helps you do. Success breeds success. Look at what Keith County is about to be able to do with their estate gift. I've worked with dozens and dozens of communities, hundreds and hundreds of organizations, and I've been invited to explore thousands of dreams and goals. Why does the NCF model work for Homegrown Challenge grants? Success is in the network. NCF helps you focus on your assets, reinforces a growth mindset. NCF helps you discover the tools and resources you need to believe in yourself and meet that with success. A key part of this is your peers, your fellow FACs. Success breeds success. You have a tremendous asset in the peer network of affiliate funds. You have a tremendous asset in the NCF team. They're readily available. They are the #1 resource. They will guide and support you along the way. You are never alone. Your community can do this. Your Homegrown Challenge will lead to homegrown success. I'm complete.
Oh, Paul, thank you. Okay, that's about the third time tonight I've had goosebumps. So I think that's a pretty good signal that maybe we've had some incredible individuals share their stories and share their why and all kinds of information with us tonight. We are going, and Miss Emily, we're going to jump right to our breakout since we're running a little long on time and we don't want to lose our folks. So Denise, I'm going to let you take over.
Great. Well, I am a true believer in homegrown challenges, and I hope you've been inspired tonight to start the planning process for a homegrown challenge in your community. You're going to be going to a breakout room with the same peer mentor and participants to discuss this question. What has inspired you tonight to do a homegrown challenge? Emily, let's send them to their breakouts. I am complete.
By now, you have been inspired to do and create a homegrown challenge grant. And so this slide basically just shares the campaign characteristics with you. Who? Identify your challenge grant donor. What's the challenge grant amount you want to go for? And remember, dream big here. 100,000, 200,000. What will that magical number be? When? So how long will it take? Usually it's always a good idea to have at least 2 years in your challenge grant so that if we run into a not so great market in the ag area, we have a year or two to kind of roll through that. 3 years is a great time for a challenge grant if it's a little bit bigger. Where? In your community. This is going to benefit your community, your unrestricted endowment, and your why. We've heard about all kinds of whys tonight and how important that is. It's to build your fund's unrestricted endowment and how come I chat? And tell your story. So those are the quick down and dirty results of a campaign characteristic. And please know that NCF is here every step of the way to help you with that. This is a neat graphic that we show, just helping you understand a little bit of the timeline for a homegrown challenge grant, where you go through a planning phase, you do some internal conversations with potential donors, and you really hopefully will get up to 50 to 60% of your match made before you actually announce, so that you're actually announcing success before you really even get started. And then how to take it home for a public phase with a lot of additional conversations and helping you with make the ask workshops. And then at the very end, obviously to celebrate your win. So that is a very quick summary because I want to try to get most of you out of here by 8 o'clock tonight. But what we really want to drill home tonight is 2 things. If you remember nothing else from tonight, it's that we want you to, number 1, hopefully be inspired to do a homegrown challenge grant. And number 2, know that NCF is here as your partner to be successful in a homegrown challenge grant.